Good afternoon, exiles. So, my girlfriend Sarah made some marinara sauce, and I've had some people comment on some of my other canning videos about me not using proper canning safety because I don't use canning approved recipes. Okay, so if you're going to do everything by the book, you should use canning approved recipes. I don't personally worry about it because something like this, where tomatoes, sometimes you can water bath them. I don't know the pH of this because we didn't use a canning approved recipe. So I am going to assume that it has the wrong pH and I have to water bath can it. Or I have to pressure can it. So I'm going to pressure can it. Now it doesn't have any meat in it, so you could probably get away with doing these smaller jars for just an hour. But I'd go ahead and go the extra mile and do everything as if it had meat and do it for 75 minutes in pint jars and 90-minute in quart jars. And that way I know it's nice and hot. And then when I open a jar of canned food, I always bring it up to a boil, so if any of the botulism bacteria did survive the canning process and made botulism toxin in the jars, which is very unlikely, that botulism toxin is then boiled off when the food gets up to boiling, so it's not really a problem. The only reason you have to worry about botulism is not the bacteria itself. The bacteria is everywhere, and if there is any bacteria in this botulism bacteria that would be in this jar, it would already be in here, and so it's not that big a deal to worry about. What happens though is when you can it, the bacteria turn into the spores and release a little bit of toxin. Then they turn back into the bacteria once the temperature gets and light and everything gets right, and then when they turn back from the spore form back into the bacteria form, or maybe it's a cyst form, I don't remember the exact. But anyway, when it turns from one form to the other, when conditions are right, it releases the toxin. And that toxin will build up inside the jar, and that's what hurts you. So we just do a little bit of overkill when we can, and do a little bit of extra safety precautions by boiling it when it comes out of the jars. And we're not really worried about it. It's not that big a deal. Most people who get sick from botulism in the United States actually get sick from restaurant potatoes. That either the potatoes, they make a batch of potatoes and let them sit around all day, and they change temperature, and then they go into the refrigerator, and then the next day they go into the next or back out under the warmers, and that lets the botulism bacteria grow and change from one form to another, and that's where people get sick. It almost never happens from canning stuff, and even the people that do get sick, it's very, very rare to get sick even from those potatoes. So it's nothing I'm worried about. So I hope you find this useful and informative, and I hope you understand the safety rules and why I don't follow them strictly. And thank you for joining me on the journey to use God's gifts to grow His kingdom, prepare for the future, and live a better life.